Experience is the best teacher, but the tuition is high. That's why I started the Global CISO Podcast for defenders by defenders, as I traveled around 300,000 miles last year working with the largest, most complex organizations in the world. And we're going to talk about what works, what doesn't work, and how CISOs and CIOs can navigate the pace of change in this exponential age. So, let's dive in. All right. Hi, this is Chuck Herrin. Welcome to episode 3 of F5's Global CISO Podcast for defenders by defenders. Today, I am honored to have one of my favorite API hackers on with me. His name's Corey Ball. Corey wrote the book literally on hacking APIs. We've known each other for several years. I won't want to steal his thunder, so I'll ask Corey to introduce himself, and then we're going to jump right in. So Corey, would you mind introducing yourself to the audience and maybe tell them what you're up to recently?
Sure thing. Corey Ball, author of Hacking APIs. I've been in IT and cybersecurity for the past 15 years. Recently, outside of founding the API Security University, which is a completely free resource to learn all the things about API security, I started my own company. I'm the CEO of hAPI Labs, where I not only perform API and web app penetration testing, but I primarily help financial service companies make sure that their acquisitions and mergers are secure.
Right on. So the classic M&A surprise later on that companies find that maybe entities that were for sale for attractive prices didn't have their technology debt all buttoned up. Maybe they haven't been investing in IT for a few years. Finding those things before you have the massive, what was the Verizon acquisition, the Yahoo acquisition, $250 million impact? Right on.
Yep. Yeah. The criminals like the big announcements when there's lots of dollars involved. And so making sure that those technical assets are locked down and as secure as they can be prior to making those big announcements helps. Yeah.
Perfect. That's great. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. So, those of you who are relatively new to the podcast, maybe this is the first episode, we try to stick to the mantra of be quick, be bright, and be gone. So we're going to try to stay this to about 5 minutes, give or take. And Corey, what I'd like for you to help educate our listeners and viewers today is, what are maybe 3 things that you wish defenders and CISOs knew or took more seriously from the attacker's perspective, right? So you're attacking, and your teams are attacking endpoints and externally facing applications, perhaps internal applications. And in my experience, we see the same things over and over again. So what are some things that you wish defenders would take more seriously and really did as a non-discretionary behavior in terms of their defense postures?
Sure thing. The first item that always comes up for me when I'm presenting and speaking about is that classic enterprise vulnerability management programs and the tools that are used for those don't work for APIs. And APIs are the technology behind the transfer of one of the world's most valuable resources, data. And so when we're putting up our layers of defense and the firewalls and web app firewalls and everything else to protect this data, those APIs that are internet facing can often be a gateway to compromise, where if there's an unsecured API, it doesn't require authentication or doesn't enforce authorization, that can be a direct gateway to where a criminal attacker could come in, make a request, and steal the data that you've been protecting with all those other layers. So I want to make sure that the defenders know that they need to use the right tools in order to test their APIs. They need to successfully make API requests, not just set a scanner at it, come back with a clean bill of health and be able to rest easy, but to know the issues that are there. And one of the ways they can do that is there are plenty of deliberately vulnerable applications that are out there. The OWASP API Security Project, for example, has crappy. You can point your scanner directly at that and see what results you're walking away with. If you're only seeing, HSTS is missing, or maybe there's clickjacking or something else, you're missing the top 10 vulnerabilities, or maybe the top 9 because you're getting some security misconfiguration information, but you're missing some of the top classic attacks that our APIs are vulnerable against. And that would just demonstrate that your tools may not be as effective as you think.
Got it. So when we expose APIs to the outside world, we actually need to be mindful of how that changes your attack surface and the way that APIs are vulnerable to different types of attacks than we necessarily had to worry about so much with the traditional web apps, right? Things like BOLA, broken object level authorization, broken object property level authorization. So companies that say, I have a WAF or I have an API gateway, what are they missing?
Yeah, those are important layers. You definitely want to have those in place, and you want to have that multi-layered approach down. The thing that comes up is web application firewalls. There are regular bypasses that come out on a monthly basis. And so that's one layer that could be bypassed. The techniques that are out there, a criminal attacker's request for someone else's resources is going to look a lot like a valid request. So authorization is definitely challenging, and you want to make sure that user A can only interact with user A's resources. They can't create, read, update, delete user B's resources or company B's resources, anything like that.
Got it. So actually the business logic of how the application works is really important to understand and to test, because from a WAF perspective, you're going to get a 200 OK response because it looks like an authorized request when in fact you may be pulling someone else's data, which is why API specific defenses are necessary. So one last question in the interest of keeping this brief so we can be brief, be quick, be bright, and be gone. As companies are investing in generative AI, a common stat that we see is that increases your API attack surface because generative AI applications are APIs all the way down. But AI engines and LLMs, they expose new vulnerabilities to attack too. So how should companies go about testing and looking for those types of things? Not only testing the APIs for API specific vulnerabilities, but also thinking more broadly about the new, most modern of modern apps, the generative AI or in AI enabled applications.
Yeah, definitely. So first, you have the API attack surface, which with these business opportunities coming along to plug in AI to everything, that greatly expands it. Just like you said, when you look behind the scenes at generative AI, it's a bunch of APIs. And then you introduce something like MCPs into that, where there's a long period of time in the short window that we've had MCPs where it's just, they're vulnerable, they don't have authorization, things are missing. And so security is trying to catch up in these situations. With AI, not only do you have that greatly expanded API attack surface, but now you have business risk when you have agents that may be representing your company. And now you have a new set of vulnerabilities to be concerned about with prompt injection and natural language hacking. So can I manipulate the AI to say something unsavory that doesn't represent your business too well? Or can I have it provide me with free plane tickets like we've already seen with certain AI exploits? And so having the agent be a legal representative of your company in any way, with like being a chat bot that says it's a legal representative, these are legal concerns that go along and expand that attack surface, not just with the technical side of APIs, but also with that legal representative side, where now you have this chatbot that's sort of insecure and saying things outside of what you'd expect it to. And you just have to be really careful and invest into the securing these new business opportunities that you don't want to miss, but simultaneously you don't want the risk and consequences that go along with not protecting those and not doing your due diligence to secure those.
Absolutely, 100% agree. So Corey, I want to thank you for coming. This has been, I don't know how many events we've done together, but I love the synergy of the attacker and defender, like chocolate and peanut butter better together, right? And that informs us and our audience, our customers and our buyers and our listeners of defense informed by the offense. I think defenders need to understand how the offense works and what offensive operators are looking for so that we can align our layered defenses accordingly. And we only have so many resources to allocate. So Corey, I want to thank you for coming on. It's been great seeing you again. Where can people see you or catch up with what you're working on?
Yeah, so I'm actually running the Hacking APIs conference with API Days. So I'll be out in London September 23rd running that conference. So if anyone's around, come by and check out the conference. It's a full day of API security fun. So we typically have a CTF where people can participate, as well as engaging talks throughout the day. So that'll be my next event. And then, catch me on LinkedIn, connect with me, and reach out anytime.
Perfect. And Corey, I will see you there. I will be in London. So I'll see you at the event. And thanks very much. For everyone who's listening, thank you for tuning into F5's Global CISO Podcast. My name is Chuck Herrin, for Defenders by Defenders. Every couple of weeks, we're going to bring you the latest in bite-sized clips for you to understand the modern attack surface and what defenders need to do to protect against modern attacks. Thanks very much. I'm your host, Chuck Herrin. Y'all stay safe out there.